So if you have a Bible, go ahead and turn to Colossians chapter 3. We're going to cover a lot of ground today, so I'm going to try hard not to talk too fast. We're on a series in our core values here, and we said that values are like an iceberg. What you see above the surface is driven by what is below the surface. And this is true with families, organizations, and even churches. There are reasons that people act the way that they do. The behavior that you see above the surface is driven by the convictions, the beliefs, the things that are going on underneath. And so our values are the hills that we die on. They're the deeply held convictions. And while our ministries over time will change and the events that we do will change and, the style of music might change, but the thing that will not change along with our beliefs are our values. And so last week we said that one of our first value is that we reach people by sharing the gospel in an understandable way. So we don't want coming to Mountain Life Church to be a cross-cultural experience for people in our community. We want it to be understandable, like relatable, in a language that people can understand. And so the second value we have today is this: we cultivate spiritual maturity by engaging in godly, lasting relationships. Now, if you look at all of that, the words on that screen are important, because if you look at the word cultivate, it's like when you cultivate something, it doesn't happen instantaneously overnight. If you cultivate a garden, you got to tend to it. It takes time, intentionality. You got to be committed to it. There's a process involved. But if you read this value, you might go, okay, well, this is the part where they're telling us they all want us to, be friends. And we just saw this video about, going back to kindergarten. Will you be my friend? And, and they all want us to hang out so that Mountain Life can be seen as a friendly church and people won't think that we're mean-spirited. And this is the part they're going to tell us about that. But it's not just about having friends. It's actually much deeper than that, because what we're saying is, we believe and are convinced a hill that we die on is that spiritual maturity actually happens in relationships as opposed to merely knowledge. So oftentimes when you talk about discipleship or maturity, it's connected to a class or a book or some type of certification or a process where now you know more. But what we're saying is no, the pathway to maturity, to being more like Jesus, to looking and acting like him, to reaching the level to which he's called us, doesn't happen in isolation. It can only happen as we are committed to each other long-term in godly and healthy relationships. And the reason why is because, even in 1 Corinthians, it's a fascinating verse. Paul says, knowledge puffs you up. It makes you look down your nose at other people because now you know something that nobody else does. But in contrast, love builds up. And that's the kind of thing that we want. So love becomes the utility of knowledge. And so spiritual maturity is not cerebral. It's behavioral. We have to understand that and embrace that as a church. It is measured in what you do, how you behave, the fruit of the Spirit, not merely in your academic pedigree or all the classes you've been to or books you've read or Bible verses you know. Not that that's not important, but it's not the most important thing, because it's the way you treat people is the indicator of how much you know. Right? So this concept all over the New Testament, so much so that, I was preparing for this message. I go, I could just read the whole New Testament to you and there's be a good sermon, because to make the point of how much of the Bible is concerned with how I as an individual treat you as an individual. And so important. But I've narrowed it down to Colossians chapter 3, and even then we're going to go through a fair amount of it, because I want to cut this part. No, I got to include this part too. Yeah, I was so excited about it all. So anyway, starting with verse 1, it says this: if then you have been raised with Christ, which if you're a Christian, you've been raised with Christ. Your old life is gone. We'll talk about that in a minute. Seek the things that are above, where Christ is, seated at the right hand of God. Set your minds on things that are above, not on things that are on earth. For you have died, and your life is hidden with Christ in God. When Christ, who is your life, appears, then you will also appear with him in glory. So in other words, he's saying, look, if you're really a Christian, you have an old life that is dead and gone before you were a Christian. That is left behind now. And you take on a new life. Now that's a big, heavy concept. You live a new life that has begun but has not yet fully been manifested. It's hidden with Christ in God. Someday at the resurrection, and there will be a resurrection, you will die, your body will die and go in the ground. You will be resurrected. You will live someday, and that life will be fully revealed. So you will appear in glory with Christ. So what you and I are doing now is we're living that life now, even though it's not fully realized yet. Huge concept, and one to not be taken lightly. That's a massive part of what it means to be a believer and have faith in what God's gonna do in the future. But it kind of seems esoteric too. It's kind of like, okay, set your minds on things above. Seek the things that are above. So does that mean I'm just kind of supposed to just think about heavenly stuff all day and just kind of sit in my room and, ponder all that stuff? Not really. Because actually he's making a case. He goes, based on what we know to be true, this is what this life looks like. Because you had an old life that's gone. This is what the new life looks like now. So this is what he says in verse 5. He says, put to death, therefore. So by the way, whenever you see a therefore, you're supposed to ask the question, what is the therefore? Which means you go back and you go, oh, put to death, therefore. Why? Well, he was just saying something and now he's making an argument. So because you've been raised with Christ and you have an old life and now you have a new life. So therefore, put to death what is earthly in you. Sexual immorality, impurity, passion, evil desire, and covetousness, which is idolatry. Wow, he comes out of the gate swinging, right? But why is it so important? So I've been raised with Christ, you have a new life, put aside, put down, put to death the old life, and this is what the old life is, and he starts listing all these things. But why does he go there first? Because sexual immorality and all that is associated with it ruins not only your life, but the lives of those around you. It torpedoes your marriage and it sends shrapnel flying everywhere. As it was described this week, as yet another well-known Christian leader confessed to an 8-year-long affair. In an article written about this situation, the author talked about a blast zone, like a grenade. And this individual's blast zone was very wide because of his influence. Multiple people were like, wait, what? And that's what happens. We are talking about sins that are relational, and one of the most brutal of them is in the area of sexual immorality because it burdens the people that you say you love. It shatters trust. It warps the soul. It leaves deep scars that never totally heal oftentimes. I mean, when are we going to admit the fact that this kind of thing is not a private sin? You go, oh, well, Tim, it's between two consenting adults. Not if it's evil, it isn't. If it's evil, it's never just between two consenting adults. Remember that. It's not. We have to understand that. And so when we sit there and go, well, this is my body and I can do whatever. Yeah, well, you're ruining the people around you. Discipleship and spiritual maturity is behavioral, and it has to do with how I treat the people in my life, starting with those closest to me. It's not about what you know. It's about how you act. So this is what the new life looks like. And then he moves on, and he says, on account of these, the wrath of God is coming. Well, yeah. But then look at verse 7. It says, in these you too once walked when you were living in them. Now that's an amazing thought. And you know why? Because it assumes that the people in the early church are actually involved in this kinds of stuff. Oftentimes we think that the people in the early church were these really holy people, they didn't have sexual issues or any kind. These people were crazy before they became Christians. You thought you have a past. These people had This is like Lifetime channel or whatever, all the TLC levels kind of stuff. Like they would have been great candidates for reality TV shows. And they start coming to Jesus and they come into church and they're living a very different life. And so the encouraging thing about that is he acknowledges, he goes, hey, you used to be like this, but you're not anymore. So you used to walk this way, but this isn't part of your new life. You don't bring this stuff in with you to your new life because you're living with a totally different set of priorities. There's a new world that's coming. And you've been called to a higher order. So then look what he says in verse 8. But now you got to put all this stuff away. Anger, wrath, malice, slander, and obscene talk from your mouth. And again, when we're talking about spiritual maturity, you go, like I look at that verse 8 right there, and I look at just that one verse right there. I could work on that the rest of my life, and I have plenty to do. You know what I mean? I read that, I went, man, I'm in my midlife, and I still have so much work to do on this. I could meditate on that one verse for the rest of my life and go, that's what spiritual maturity looks like, is putting those things out of my life. And he goes on, do not lie to one another. When was the last time you told a lie? 20 minutes ago? She asked, how do I look? That wasn't in the notes, by the way, and it didn't happen. She was still sleeping when I got here this morning. She looks great. But you know what I'm saying? Do not lie to one another, seeing that you have put off the old self with its practices and put on the new self, which is being renewed in knowledge after the image of its creator. In other words, this connected. So I'm learning that in the knowledge of the image of my creator, my behavior is actually changing. Here there is no Greek or Jew, circumcised and uncircumcised, barbarian, Scythian, slave, free, but Christ is all and in all. Not in all people, but in all believers. And so what's important about that, what is like barbarian, Scythian, what is he talking about? He's saying all these were deep divisions in society at the time. We have deep divisions in society at our time. Y'all have your thing, right? You know, your ethnicity and your gender and your associate, blah, 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 blah. And you are being judged by that and not as an individual. And they were doing the same stuff back then. He goes, that's not what this is about anymore. When we come to Christ, Christ brings us together because we're behaving towards one another differently. And I no longer hate you for who I think you are, but I'm actually putting away anger, wrath, and malice and slander. And whoa, okay, well, that's new. It's all relational. It's all indicators of maturity, all pictures of what new life looks like. And so he continues. And he's like, okay, now that was the old life. So what does the new life look like? You put off the old self. And in verse 12, it says, put on then as God's chosen ones, holy and beloved. You ready for this? Compassionate hearts. Kindness, humility, meekness, which is not weakness, by the way, it's restraint. That's what meekness is. I could do it, but I'm not going to. And patience, bearing with one another, and if one has a complaint against another, forgiving each other, as the Lord has forgiven you, so you must also forgive. All those things that he just described, you can't do those in isolation, and you're not designed to do them with just surface level, hey, how's it going relationships. These are people that you go through life with, and if you go through life with anyone for any period of time, you're gonna have to forgive them. Are you? So again, these are not cerebral, these are behavioral. You go, okay, well, should I learn more? Of course you should learn more. In fact, this whole chapter, Colossians chapter 3, you should memorize this. One of the reasons why I love this chapter so much is because when I was a kid, every year at our church, we would go, because I grew up in Southern California, and we would go to Hume Lake Christian camps in the Sequoia National Forest. And throughout my junior high and high school years, every year we would take like giant buses full of tons of high schoolers, junior hires, and we'd go up to the camp. And they'd have all these crazy competitions and really fun, like off-the-wall stuff, but one of the parts of the competitions was you got a lot of points for your team if you memorized, and they would alternate years. One year was Colossians 3, and the next year was 1 Peter 2. Then it was back to Colossians 3, and then 1 Peter 2. And so if you go to the camp 6 or 7 times, you're getting like 3 or 4 shots of having the opportunity to memorize this. And it was very much a lot of peer pressure because you got a lot of points for your team, and there was a lot of bragging rights. And so we go up to each other and go, you better be memorizing this passage, or we're going to beat you, you know? It's kind of a weird way to get people to memorize scripture. But it worked, and it worked for me. So to the point of like, I had this thing like basically soaked into my soul. So this particular chapter, I didn't have to when it was just coming out because I remembered it from so long when I was a kid. So I would say, yes, you need to do these kinds of things. And look, if a 15-year-old crazy idiotic kid like me with ADD and a misdemeanor police record, which I did have at the time, although it was not my fault, I was an accomplice. But if I can do that, you can do that too. So of course we're supposed to be. When I read this, I go, put on the new self. Wait a second. So rather than scrolling through all the doom scrolling stuff for 5 minutes, can I go, shoot, I got to put on compassionate heart, kindness, humility, meekness, and patience. I hate patience. I got to bear with one. Is he really serious? I have to bear with you, and you have to bear with me? Really? That's what it says. If you want to be spiritually mature, if you don't want to be spiritually mature, don't do that. If you do, that's what it looks like. No one cares about how much Bible verses you know. What they do care about is your ability to have these qualities present in your life. So let me ask you right now, those of you, and this may be a hard question, but honestly, right now, how many of you in this room are dealing with a significant trial in your life right now? Put up your hand. Just put up, way up, way up, way up. Ooh. Wow, keep it up, please, please, please. Look around. Do you think, now you can put them down, do you think, those of you that did not put your hand up, that the people that put their hand up right now, do you think they could use someone coming alongside them going, hey man, I'm sorry you're going through what you're going through right now, but you're gonna be okay. You're gonna make it through this. I'll help make sure of that. And if you need someone to call at 3 a.m., you call me. Do you know how many people don't have that? They don't have that. They have no one to call. But there's people in this room that just admitted, I'm going through a significant life trial right now. And so for us, that's why we go, kindness, compassionate heart. That's why we do it. Then it says, this is a real fun one, as the Lord has forgiven you, you must forgive. See, behavior is the manifestation of knowledge. Behavior is the manifestation of knowledge. So he doesn't just say forgive, he gives the basis for forgiving. Oh, as the Lord has forgiven you. Here's the problem. So many of us walk around and we're still battling shame, and we're still battling guilt, and we're still battling isolation because we don't really believe that we've been truly forgiven by God. And then you go, well, I'm really mad at this person and I hold a grudge against this person over here and I'm all bitter because you haven't experienced forgiveness yourself. But if you really understand that God forgave you for that thing that you did over there and that thing, even that thing over there that nobody knows about, he forgave you for that too. That's true. It's gone. That should produce in you the capability of forgiving other people in your life. And that's one of the hardest things anyone can ever do. And I'm not talking about forgiving like people in the media, like Maduro or whatever, you know. You're not supposed to forgive that guy. He didn't do anything to you, unless you're Venezuelan and he did do something to you. But you know what I'm saying? Like, oh, I forgive it. No, I'm talking about forgiving people like your father, your ex, the guy that fired you, the person that stole from you. How am I supposed to do that? Well, he says, as the Lord forgave you. I didn't write it, I'm just passing it on. You know what I mean? So that, like, when you sit, so the point is, as we struggle with forgiving people, we're supposed to go, how am I supposed to forgive this person? As the Lord, okay, so what did God forgive me for again? Oh yeah, shoot. That too, yeah, I did that, and I did that. And guess what? That is no longer gonna be held against me. God doesn't see that anymore. I've been declared righteous. Holy cow. If that's really true. So I'm always revisiting the gospel. I'm always revisiting forgiveness. That's part of maturity. So he's laying it out for us, right? So you forgive people. And when you forgive people, you become a person who's easier to be around. And you become a person that other people want to be around because you keep short accounts. It doesn't mean just letting people walk all over you. But it does mean doing the business that you need to do inside your soul to become the type of person that's actually living as you say you claim to live, which is a Christian who's been raised to new life. This is the whole logic of the whole deal. But discipleship is relational because, we're all broken people. Please don't think that if you walked into this church that you're alone in your brokenness, that you're the only one who's dealing with what you're dealing with. That is a lie from Satan. That's designed to keep you in isolation. But see, when God fixes us, what he does is he doesn't fix you in isolation. He fixes you through other people. I've been repaired in my life through the work of the Holy Spirit, but that has not come directly from God. It's come through the influence of other people in my life who have reminded me of the truth, who have mentored me, who've walked alongside, said, Tim, nope, don't do that. Nope, don't think that way anymore. That's not, you know what I mean? So that's how it works. And so we're supposed to be pictures of faithfulness to each other. We're supposed to be pictures of courage to each other. And how you live is a testimony to people. So anyway, at Mountain Life Church, no one walks this journey alone. And because we have so many new people here, I want to help you get connected in a very practical way. So I actually want to make this last part of the sermon extremely practical for you. So if you would go ahead and take out this church center card that is in the seat back in front of you, unless you are flying first class or on bulkhead and you've got no thing in front of you. I don't know what to say to you people, except I'm sorry. They may have just put them on the chairs for you because they premeditated that. But anyway, so you have this thing here with the QR code. And what I want you to do right now, if you don't yet have the Church Center app, it's called Church Center because thousands of churches use it, and we're just one of them, so it's better than anything we could create. I want you to scan this QR code. This is the only time in the sermon where you can mess around with your phone, and God's not going to be mad at you. And download the app, the Church Center. If you already have it, you're good. You're good. But I want you to get on the app anyway. Just get on the app, open it. But if you don't have it yet, this is your opportunity. We want everybody on it because this is how we do it. We don't want to just say, get in good community, develop friendships, and watch a video, and then see ya. It's like we're going to walk through this right now. So everybody get your phone out and scan this and download this app. And, you can put your information in some other time or now or whatever. And on it, you will see, once you have the app, there's a little thing at the bottom called events, and you can push on events, and that tells you about some of the ways we have outlined for you to begin to practice this in real life as we go forward here at Mount Life, because we have so many new people, and even if you're like a person that's been here for a while and you still feel disconnected, we want to solve that problem. So I want to give you 4 examples of ways that you can actually begin to live out and move towards maturity in community with other people. So the first one is this. It's rooted. Now you might be like, here we go again, talking about rooted. You guys always talk about rooted. And I would agree with you, and I'd be as equally as annoyed as you might be to hear about this again, except for this one thing. I was at Man Camp back in September, and I was talking to these guys, and I was like, hey, so how do you guys know each other? I'm like, rooted. I'm like, really? Yeah, we were in a rooted group together. Oh, and then I talked to some other guys, and I hear like, they and their wives, they all went to this. We went to the rooted group together. And then this guy over here, yeah, I was in rooted. That's why I'm still here at this church, and I didn't move back to wherever. I go, oh my gosh. So I was walking away going, holy cow! All these guys found connections, found a community in rooted. So that's all I was hearing about. Rooted. Okay, so because of that, we are like, oh, if it's not broke, don't fix it. So we're gonna keep driving Rooted. So if you have not done Rooted and you're like, I'm just starting out, your first stop in terms of getting to know people here and growing in your faith with Christ is getting in a Rooted group. So all you gotta do is go on the app that you downloaded, boom, click sign up, and you're in business. You're good. Like, that's how easy it is. You don't have to get up and talk to anybody out there or stand in a line. You just, boom, hit the button. So it's pretty good, right? That's the first example. And I would just say, this is we want to make it super easy. The second example is this, Re-engage. Re-engage is a new ministry that we're launching, and let me read the official description for you. It is discipleship-based enrichment for every marriage, the healthy, the struggling, and the broken. That means at Mountain Life Church, we understand there's people who have healthy marriages, struggling marriages, and broken marriages. And it's okay if your marriage is broken. It's okay. We just want to help you fix it. We don't want you to go, well, you got a broken marriage, too bad, sorry. No, we want to help you fix it. And one of the ways we do that is by helping you come alongside other people who have gone through marriage and learned some things. And it's a mentoring relationship kind of situation in a class kind of format where you meet people and talk about real stuff. This is the thing. Most of us spend more time working on our golf swing or our skiing technique than we do on the most important relationship of our whole lives, which is our marriages. To actually sit there and talk and figure out what's going on and so think about this, because you might be sitting there thinking to yourself, well, my marriage is the only one in this whole room that's struggling. Or if there's some kind of issue going on, how can I ever get back to the way that it was? But the truth of the matter is, it's possible not only for it to get back to the way that it was, but to be better than it's ever been, because part of the reason you got to where you were is because you weren't dealing with some of the stuff that this class will help you deal with. So you might look back and go, man, we hit the skids on some things, but man, we went to this Re-engage, and and it's a cool little logo, the rings and stuff, and Engage is kind of, and I didn't make it up so I can say that. So I thought it was kind of creative. The third thing is flourishing. Now, this is another example. This is for women, so sorry guys, not for you, but it's for women who they basically want to thrive in the midst of all the problems in the world. In other words, all this stuff going on, you look on the news, there's depressing things, everyone's angry. How do you become a person who, even with everything around you is like going downhill, that you can still have joy and peace and happiness in your life, have a sense of, God's love for you and everything else, and connect with other ladies. This is a brand new thing we're offering. It's gonna be fantastic. So we'll start a number of women's groups that however many women want to sign up for that. So all you gotta do is push the button. It doesn't mean you're obligated. You're not signing your life away. You're just saying, I'm interested, I want to sign up, and they'll give you more information, right? And then the fourth one, which is a big one, this one is called regeneration. Now, this one walks people, this is again the description of this, through 12 steps of biblical healing in the context of community. That's why I like it. It's not just a class. But what does it help you with? It helps you with stuff that you're going through so you can find freedom from things like substance abuse, codependency, pornography, eating disorders, pride, depression, fear, control, emotional and physical abuse, same-sex attraction, yeah, you heard that right, people-pleasing, anger, obsessive thoughts, and more. Now you're going, wait a second, Tim, are you telling me that there's people at Mountain Life Church who struggle with substance abuse, codependency, pornography, eating disorders, pride, depression, fear, control? Yeah. Well, who are they? Well, they're all right here. I don't know who they are in particular, but you're all in this, otherwise we wouldn't be offered. The reason we offered this is because of what is emerging in our church as people are coming and desiring to go closer to Jesus, and they're going, actually, I got an issue that is taking over the place in my life where God should be. So that's why we're doing it. Do you see what's happening? This is a beautiful thing. So if you're struggling with this, you don't have to be ashamed about it. But I am asking you to do something about it. It's going to take some courage to hit the button and say, I want to register for this. But this is something that we actually sent like 8 people about 5 months ago out to a very, very large church in Texas to get trained in this material so that they could adequately help. And it's been a ministry that's helped many, many people in all kinds of churches around the country. So we didn't just make it up, So those are 4 examples, but there are others out there as well. Because we cultivate spiritual maturity by engaging in godly, lasting relationships. That's what we do. And we just have this beautiful opportunity to be able to do that. Because we have this opportunity to experience the joy of no longer being alone, unseen, unheard, and unknown. Because that's maybe how many of you feel. And so we're doing everything that we can. Because I'm going to tell you guys, spiritual maturity, like I said, it is about how I act. Yes, it's about what I know. And my thoughts are important. But, sin so often starts in the mind, right? So my mind is what's really where things need to start. But it manifests itself in my behavior. So because there's some people out there who say, I'm so godly because I know all that, but then they're just the meanest people in the world. We want to be people who, like, the fruit of the Spirit's just falling off the tree. You know what I'm saying? It's falling off the tree. Not that we're going to be perfect, but we can. I believe this with all my heart. We can become men and women who begin to show each other pictures, glimpses of what heaven is going to be like. And in that sense, we fulfill what Jesus came to earth to have us do. To show this is what the rule of God looks like. And at Mountain Life Church, no one goes through life alone. Let's pray together. God, I think of the many men and women in this room and so many others who are part of our church but just aren't here on this particular day. And all I can ask is that we would experience the joy of the new life that you've given to us because we've been raised. We've been raised from spiritual death. We just got to spend some time remembering that and letting that bleed out into our lives. We talked about a lot of things today, God, but I prayed for those people today who need to hit the button on the app and need to say, you know what? I got to register for one of these groups. I got to sign up. I got to engage myself. Because this is the only way that I'm going to get past the thing that has been plaguing me. This is the only way we can fix our marriage. This is the only way that we can see a future together. This is the only way that I can finally begin to take hold of Christianity. I can't do it alone. We weren't meant to be alone. You say in Genesis, it's not good. It's not good for man to be alone. And we grow in maturity only when we can capture that. And so God, I pray for this church that we would just be known as people who have this way of demonstrating Jesus in all we do. And God, may so many lives be changed this year. May so many walls be broken down. May so much stuff that has hindered us finally break apart, and can we see a new dawn, a new sunrise, a new light come into our lives. May this be the best year corporately for our church and individually in the lives of the men and women here that any of us have ever had. In Jesus' name, amen.